Hey guys, so good morning and welcome to Unacademy. I hope I'm audible and visible to everybody here. So today we'll be continuing with the series wherein we are covering the current affairs from various months of 2020. So far we have covered the months of January and February, and today we'll be having a short discussion on the various current affairs, important ones from the month of March, right? So that is how we'll be progressing here in the session for today. So now let's begin with the current affairs from the month of March for the year 2020. Can someone please confirm in the comment section if I'm audible and visible to everybody? Am I audible and visible to everybody here? Am I audible and visible, guys? All right, so I guess I am. So now let's go on further with the discussion here. So going on further, let's talk about the aspects related to what all things have happened of late and all those things, right? To begin with, we'll talk about the World Wildlife Day, right? That is the first current affair that we'll be discussing about. Hi, Priyank. Hi, Ravi. Welcome to the session, right? So first we'll begin or we'll talk about the World Wildlife Day and then we'll progress to other topics, right? Now the day here is being celebrated on the 3rd of March every year to create awareness about the importance of protecting wildlife, right? So needless to say, in the present situation or the present scenario, mankind has actually gone berserk, and there is so much over exploitation of resources that we have to typically take care of the fact that proper awareness and all those campaigns are run so as to protect all these species out here, right? So now the day here is being celebrated on the 3rd of March every year to create awareness about the importance of protecting biodiversity, right? So I hope everybody is aware of the fact that numerous ecosystem services and all those things are rendered or are given to us by the biodiversity, and therefore it is of utmost importance for us, and it is very very pivotally important for all the humankind to get together and actually go on with this campaign of protecting biodiversity, right? I hope you guys are well aware of the fact that what do we understand by ecosystem services. I'll just write that term down for you guys here. All right. So speaking about ecosystem services, so ecosystem services क्या हैं? They are the various functions or services discharged by the ecosystem or the environment, which are very very crucial to the very existence of humankind, right? For instance, regulation of temperatures, climate control, pollination, all these things very well fall under the ambit of your ecosystem services, right? Now, the day here is being celebrated on the 3rd of March every year to create awareness about the importance of protecting wildlife. Also, remember in December 2013, the UN General Assembly proclaimed 3rd of March the day of signature of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora in 1973. Very good, Ravi, absolutely correct. So basically, as Ravi has mentioned in the comment section also, when we talk about ecosystem services, it comprises of aspects like support, provisioning, regulation, and cultural aspects to it, right? So in December 2013, UN General Assembly proclaimed 3rd of March the day of signature of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, that is CITES, in 1973 as the World Wildlife Day, right? The UNGA resolution also designated the CITES Secretariat as the facilitator for the global observance of this special day for wildlife on the United Nations calendar, right? So that was done over there. Now speaking about the next important aspect here, so guys आपको कभी ऐसे पूछ लेते हैं usually, not if not UPSC then a lot of state PSCs do ask such factual questions, right? So be very very careful as to remembering small details like these, right? आपको लगता है कि ये इतना important नहीं है and you can always skip this. but it is in your best interest to remember small details like these, right? So you can also mention it, in any of your environmental, like कहीं पर अगर आपको environment या biodiversity की value वाला कुछ question आता है, so you can also mention it there also, right? Going on further, talking about black carbon level, the next important topic that we have here is black carbon levels spike at Himalayan glaciers. Now, when we speak about aspects related to different forms of carbon, we have four different types of carbon. What are the four different types of carbon that we have? Anybody? What are the four different types of carbon that we have on Earth, which we have or which we see? What are the four different types of carbons that we have? Batao. So we basically have your blue carbon and green carbon and black carbon and brown carbon, right? Blue carbon, very good, Ravi. Blue carbon is the carbon that is sequestered in oceans. Green carbon is the carbon that is sequestered in green plants, right? Then brown carbon and black carbon are the various unburned components of hydrocarbons, which are not a carbon sequestration methodology, but they are actually pollutants amounting to carbon pollution, right? Now, when it says that the black carbon levels spike at Himalayan glaciers, it implies, or what does it mean? It means that the quantity of the black carbon, that is the unburned hydrocarbons wala component jo hai, that is increasing, and those levels have spiked at the Himalayan glaciers, right? Now, please note that the black carbon concentrations near the Gangotri Glacier rose 400 times in summer due to forest fires and stubble burning from agricultural waste and triggered melting, right? अब होता क्या है, अब कहीं पर अगर कोई किसी तरह का pollution हो रहा है, right, in terms of someone is burning something or some hydrocarbons are being burnt or something like that, so what is going to happen? A lot of soot is going to be released, right? Now, once a huge component of soot is going to be released out there in the environment, what is going to happen as a result of the same? क्या होगा? Small, soot particles will go and settle all over the place. Now, as and when these small black carbon particles will settle, so what happens? They will be, like maybe settling down on glaciers or maybe your different kinds of snow-capped peaks and all those areas, right? Now, once that is going to happen, we will notice that, देखो, अगर white snow जो है, तो अगर snow white होगी, so obviously white का albedo बहुत high होता है, so what is going to happen? Yes, I know, Ravi. So what is going to happen with respect to this? So क्या होगा? जो आपकी sunlight है वो पूरी reflect हो जाएगी. बट अब ये जो आपकी स्नो कैप पीक है, अगर यहाँ पर इसमें ऐसे ब्लैक ब्लैक डॉट्स या ब्लैक ब्लैक सूट पार्टिकल्स जो है वो सेटल करेंगे, सो व्हेन द सनलाइट इज गोइंग टू बी कमिंग इन, कुछ पार्ट जो है वो अब्सॉर्ब होगा, कुछ पार्ट जो है वो वापस इमिट होगा. So this, when it is going to absorb the heat, what is going to happen? So as and when this heat is going to get absorbed over here, what are we going to notice? We are going to notice the fact that it is going to lead to the melting of glaciers over here, right? So यहाँ क्या होगा? Melting हो जाएगी, right? And that is what is happening. So that is basically in a way triggering the melting here, right? Now, please note that black carbon results from the incomplete combustion of fossil fuels and biomass, right? Absolutely right, Ravi. And the fine particles absorb light and about 1 million times more energy than your carbon dioxide, right? So that is what is going to happen over here. Now, please note that it is said to be the second highest or the second largest contributor to climate change after carbon dioxide, right? But unlike carbon dioxide, which can stay in the atmosphere for years together, black carbon is short-lived and remains in the atmosphere only for days to weeks before it descends as rain or snow, right? That is there. Furthermore, black carbon absorbs solar energy and warms the atmosphere, right? When it falls to the earth with precipitation, it darkens the surface of snow and ice, reducing their albedo, that is the reflecting power of a surface. Furthermore, warming the snow, and all of this is going to do what? All of this is going to be hastening the melting here, right? So that is going to happen over here, right? Is that clear to everybody? Have you guys understood this much? Is this clear? Have you guys understood this? So this is how the black carbon, when it is going to be settling upon the surface, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Why? Because not only is it going to absorb a lot of heat, it will further retain it and is going to lead to the melting of glaciers over here, right? So that is what is going to happen over here, right? So that is what is the basic problem here. So it is important to make sure that whenever such smoke or dust particles are going to be settling upon these surfaces, it is definitely going to cause a lot of damage there, right? So this is also one of the main reasons as to why there has been or there have been cases of increased flooding due to excessive water discharge and all those things coming out, right? Chaliye. Now going on further, let's come to the next aspect which speaks about the green co rating system. Now, what do we understand by the green co rating system? What is it exactly? So, अब green co rating system जो है वो क्या है? When we speak of it, also what is the green co rating system in general? So, green co rating जो है is developed by the Confederation of Indian Industry, right, and has been acknowledged in India's intended nationally determined contributions document submitted by the UNFCCC in 2015, right? It is being used as a proactive voluntary action of Indian industry, private sector towards combating climate change, right? So that is what is being done here, right? ये याद रखना कहाँ से आया है तो किसने डेवलप किया है CII ने, right? Q and like basically it is being used as a proactive voluntary action of Indian industry and the private sector towards combating climate change. Please yaad rakhna, it is not by MOEFCC or something like that. It is by the Confederation of Indian Industry, right? Usually हमारा sentiment रहता है कि जितना भी सब है ये वो आपका MOEFCC करता है. So no, it is by CII here, right? Now, please note that the Green Co rating assesses the firms on their environmental performance. So, various parameters of environmental performance will be taken into account, right? And thus, it aligns them to national priorities towards environment, such as energy efficiency, water conservation, renewable energy, waste management, etc. Right? So, all these things are going to be done and taken care of over here, right? Going on further, talking about the next one, that is Carissa kopilii. Right, so Carissa kopilii kya hai? It is a new plant species which has been found in Assam recently. Right, so ये क्या है? It is a wider variety of more familiar Carissa karandas, also known as karonda in Hindi. Right, आप सबने karonda सुना होगा, right? We also talk about Kalakai in Tamil Nadu, Kurumcha in Bengali, and Karanja Tenga in Assamese, right? So just give me a minute. I'll try and show you like an image of Karonda here. Just give me one moment. So this is what it basically looks like. This is an image of Karonda for you guys, right? So this is what Karonda looks like, right? So that is there. All right. Now coming back to the session, guys, talking about this aspect here. So इसका क्या purpose है? Like why are we even talking about or discussing about Karonda here? So Carissa kopilii is distributed sparsely along the Kopili river bed, right? At an altitude ranging from 85 to 600 meters above sea level, right? Kopili River is an interstate river that flows through the states of Meghalaya and Assam and is the largest south bank tributary of Brahmaputra in Assam. Please remember this. कई बार factual questions like factual data पे questions आते हैं आपको. So make sure you remember this much, right? The plant is threatened by a hydroelectric project on the river and water turned acidic because of excessive coal mining in Meghalaya upstream, right? So that is a cause of concern because of which this topic was in the news as well, right? So that is why it was in news. Now, since we've talked about coal mining in Meghalaya, might as well address the issue of rat hole mining. Right? So rat hole mining क्या होती है? Last to last year there were a lot of articles pertaining to rat hole mining. So what happens is in the state of Meghalaya and other northeastern states as well, there are coal deposits, not of a very good quality, but there are certain coal deposits. Now these people, what do? So the rat hole mining scenario is illegal, right? The government is not involved and they've banned it altogether considering the delicate ecosystem and the huge amount of water and moisture that is in the mountains over here. So there is always a chance of or a very like a probable chance of a landslide here. So because of that it is or the government has told that it should be avoided at all points of time, right? Now what happens, people still they dig up mountains and they dig up small holes which is just sufficient for very small people to slide in, right? And that is how they go on with their coal mining here, right? So rat hole mining को लेकर last issue इसलिए हुआ था because a few people were stuck in there and they had died because of the same, right? So that is why the rat hole mining issue was a very big situation or a very big issue over here, right? So that is there. All right. It happened in Meghalaya, Ravi. It happened in Meghalaya. News में Google करना rat hole mining, people stuck. So अगर आप Google में news section में ये ढूंढोगे, you'll be able to find it there, right? So just try and find it over there. All right. Now going on further, talking about the illegal wildlife trade. Right. So what happens as per Worldwide Fund for Nature, illegal wildlife trade is estimated to reach about $20 billion per year, which makes wildlife trafficking the world's fourth largest illicit trade after narcotics, human trafficking, and trade in the counterfeit goods. There are variety of products which are demanded by the trade, and poaching includes exotic pets and luxuries, bush meat, traditional medicines, clothing and jewelry made from animal fur. Also talking about the tusks of your animals and then fins and shells and skins and horns and also various internal organs, right? Not just for your trading purposes but also for certain not just as artifacts but also as certain medicinal concoctions and all those things, right? Especially in case of Chinese medicine and all those things, right? Now going on further, it also talks about another very important aspect here, that is impact of illegal wildlife trade, right? So the threat to conservation of species is first of all very very imminent, right? So that is one of the biggest problems here. इसके अलावा क्या issues है? Risks to human health. Firstly, negatively impacts the country's natural and local resources and communities, right? So all these things are there, right? So that is about it, and you can always mention it in your mains answer that as per Worldwide Fund for Nature, the illegal wildlife trade is estimated to reach at about 30, rather not 30, but $20 billion per year, which makes wildlife trafficking the world's fourth largest illicit trade after narcotics, human trafficking, and the trade in counterfeit goods, right? So you can remember that. Yes, example shark meat, example pangolin scales in meat, right? So that is over there, right? So you must have followed these things previously also. So just keep a tab and just like remember as to whenever new articles are added to it, right? Chaliye. Now going on to the next aspect, talking about the draft EIA notification. So as in when it had come out, there was a huge hue and cry back in the month of March जब आपकी draft environmental impact assessment notification जो है was ousted, right? So what happened? All projects all the projects basically that fall under the purview of Environment Protection Act, that is EPA of 1986, require an environmental clearance for running its operations, right? They are usually given before a project commences, right? Project के start होने से पहले. EI notification of 2006 issued under the EPA regulates not election commission, sorry, the EC, that is environmental clearance given by government for projects such as dams, mining, thermal power plants, infrastructure projects like highways, ports, airports, and big construction projects, etc. Right? So that part is also done over here. Now the new notification is being brought in order to make the process more transparent and expedient by implementing of an online system. Further delegation, rationalization and standardization of the EI process is also done. The notification incorporates several scattered amendments that the government made from time to time since the 2006 notification for streamlining the process, decentralization and implementation of the implementation of the directions of courts and the National Green Tribunal, right? Very, very important. All right. Now going on further, talking about the salient features of the draft EIA notification and their analysis, right? So इसमें क्या हो रहा है? Talking about the definition clause here. So the 2006 notification did not have any definitions clause, right? उसमें कोई clause ही नहीं था, जिसकी वजह से it was very difficult to actually ascertain the meaning of various terms used in the notification. तो यूजुअली जब भी आपकी कोई इनैक्टमेंट होती है उसमें सेकेंड या थर्ड सेक्शन जो होता है दैट इज मोस्टली विद रिस्पेक्ट टू स्टेटमेंट्स एंड डेफिनेशंस की किस चीज़ का क्या मतलब है, किस बात से क्या हम नोट कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो दैट वाज देयर. जो 2020 का आपका ड्राफ्ट आया है, राइट, दैट इज गुड इन दैट एस्पेक्ट बिकॉज द 2020 ड्राफ्ट डिफाइंस सेवरल टर्म्स सच एज severely polluted area, public consultation, protected areas which were previously not properly defined, giving the law on EI some much needed clarity, right? Going on further, categorization of projects and activities की अगर हम लोग बात करें, so based on potential social and environmental impacts and also the spatial extent of these projects. For instance, all projects under category, so उन्होंने categorization कर दिया properly, right? So all projects under category A shall require prior, yes, every term has been properly defined. So all projects under category A under this shall require a prior, environmental clearance from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, right? Then no EI report shall be required for the projects listed under the category B2. Then draft brings certain projects for the first time ever under the EI process. Example, bridges and elevated roads would now come under the ambit of green assessment, right? So that is there. Just a moment. The problem with the draft here is that when we are talking about the fact that हम लोगों को कोई like when we talk about like EI for the category B2, तो वहाँ पे से उसने उसको आपने हटा दिया, right? So you will not be requiring any aspect with respect to, say for instance, your clearances in those aspects, right? I know, Venkatesh, big fan. I know. Don't worry, I'll give you a like an autograph also. If you want, you can also take a signed autograph, right, with a picture. So that's perfectly fine. I can do that for you. Right. Nonetheless, thanks for joining in. Chaliye, now going on to the next thing, let's talk about eco-sensitive zones, right? So eco-sensitive zones का क्या मतलब है? The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has declared the National Chambal Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh as an eco-sensitive zone, right? Now speaking of it, अगर हम लोग इसकी बात करें तो चंबल में apart from डाकूस घड़ियाल्स are also found, right? So घड़ियाल कौन है? घड़ियाल जो हैं आपके they are your like freshwater crocodiles that are found there, right? So that is about it. All right. Yes, sir teaches geography very interestingly, especially with all the hacks to learn rivers and mountains and all those things. Like that's exceptionally easy when he's teaching you, right? Anyway, now going on further, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change notified an area to an extent of 0 to 2 kilometers around the boundary of National Chambal Sanctuary as the National Chambal Sanctuary like eco-sensitive zone, right? So that is about it, right? All right, I am so flattered, Venkatesh. Thank you so much. But abhi bas karne do. Now, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has also directed the Madhya Pradesh government to prepare a zonal master plan, right? That is there. Like actually he is one of my students. Ravi is attending the present batch, right? So anyway, thanks for joining in, Venkatesh. Chaliye. Now the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has or basically also directed the Madhya Pradesh government, right? So it has directed the Madhya Pradesh government for what? To prepare a zonal master plan, right? So it is to prepare a zonal master plan, right? And what for? So it shall or which shall provide for the restoration of denuded areas, right? It shall provide for the restoration of denuded areas, right? Conservation of existing water bodies, right? Management of catchment areas, watershed management, and groundwater management, as well as soil and moisture conservation, needs of local community, and other such aspects of ecology and environment that need attention, right? So that is about it. Now going on further, talking about the UN World Water Development Report. Now, why is this important? It is a comprehensive review that gives an overall picture of the state, use, and management of the world's freshwater resources, and it also aims to provide decision makers with tools to formulate and implement sustainable water policies, right? It is published by UNESCO on behalf of UN Water, right? The 2020 edition of the World Water Development Report addresses the critical linkages between water and climate change in the context of sustainable development, right? Report finds that water rarely appears in the international climate agreements, even though it plays a key role in issues such as food security, energy production, economic development, and poverty reduction, right? So that is there. Also, it concludes that reducing both the impacts and drivers of climate change will require substantial changes, right? That is definitely a requirement in the way we use and reuse the Earth's limited water resources, right? So that is another important aspect with respect to it. So that is how it's going on here, right? Also, since we have spoken about it, let's discuss a little bit more about the United Nations water, that is UN water. So, ये क्या है? It basically coordinates the efforts of entities, like rather of UN entities and international organizations working on water and sanitation issues, right? Members कौन से हैं? UN agencies are there, programs are there. Then speaking about your next thing here, we have fund, like programs and funds with a water related mandate are there, right? Speaking about the partners here, उसमें क्या है? Like when we speak about the partners over here, उसमें कौन है? Various international organizations are there, right? Professional unions are there, associations or other civil society groups that are actively involved in water are there, right? Its members and partners inform about water and sanitation policies, right? They also monitor and report on the progress and coordinate two annual global campaigns on the World Water Day, firstly, and also the World Toilet Day, right? So they have been working in this aspect over here, right? So that is with respect to this thing over here. Now, going on further, having understood these things, so make sure you guys do talk about these things as and when required, whenever there is a question about such things or anything of the sorts, right? So that is about it, right? Now, going on further, talking about very, very important both for prelims and for mains, that is the coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. Now, when we are going to talk about the like the coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure, what exactly are we trying to do here? So what exactly do you think is the mandate behind the same, हमें क्यों करना चाह रहे हैं, and what exactly are we trying to do here, right? So when we speak about that, or when we talk about such a thing, so it was announced. When was it announced? So it was announced by India's Prime Minister at UN Climate Summit, right? So that is where it was announced over here, right? So it was announced by India's Prime Minister at the UN Climate Action Summit 2019 held in USA and first mooted as an idea in November 2016 while inaugurating an Asian Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk, right? So that is when this thing actually took place. Now going on further, what all different things are there, right? So what exactly is it related to and how it is going on over here? So if we are to speak about that, right? So talking about that, its others that's exactly how it's functioning here, right? So its others founding members include Australia, Bhutan, Fiji, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Maldives, Mexico, Mongolia, Rwanda, Sri Lanka, and UK, right? Now coming back to the discussion that we were already like the topic, the point that we were discussing, that it is what it is, a voluntary international grouping, right? क्या है? Voluntary international grouping है, linking governments, right, UN agencies, banks, private sector groups, and academia to develop the resilience of infrastructure systems to climate and disaster risks. Right? It is the second major coalition, right? क्या है? It is the second major coalition that is there, right? Which has been launched by India outside the United Nations after the International Solar Alliance, which already has 80 member nations as partners in it. Right? So that is about it. Right? Also, please note that when we speak of it, what is going to be very important here? What is one thing that is like very, very important over here? So it says that its secretariat is located in New Delhi, right? कई बार आपको ये क्वेश्चन आता है कि किसी पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का या किसी पर्टिकुलर ऐसे कोएलिशन का जो सेक्रेटेरिएट है वो कहाँ है, कौन सी कंट्री में है. सो फॉर दोज टाइम्स यू हैव टू रिमेंबर that the secretariat of the same here is located where? It's located in New Delhi, right? Is this clear to everyone? Has everybody understood this much? Will you be able to remember this much, guys? Everyone? All right, so I hope this matter is clear to everyone. Now, going on further, let's talk about the next aspect here, that is your like we have a few important other things also to take up here. So when we speak of it, so CDRI जो है, that is going to be responsible for the same. So what is going to happen here? CDRI will be setting targets for member countries to bring down the disaster deaths, economic losses, and strive to achieve the sustainable development goals, right? Please note it will also work at the intersection of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction and the Paris Climate Agreement, right? So it will be working in consonance with both the things over here, right? Talking about the Governing Council, so Governing Council here is the highest policy making body of the CDRI. It is co-chaired by India and a representative of other national government nominated by rotation every 2 years. As a roadmap for coalition, the group will look at zero risk assessment for infrastructure, right? Then, not zero, it's the point. This is the first point, sorry. At the risk assessment for infrastructure. Secondly, it will look out for the improvements in standards and regulations for infrastructure sectors. Then, role of finance in promoting disaster resilience of infrastructure. Mechanisms for supporting recovery in infrastructure will also be taken care of here, right? Now, what is disaster resilient infrastructure? Speaking of it, वो होता क्या है? Infrastructure that can stand any huge damage from any kind of natural disaster is known as a disaster resilient infrastructure. It encompasses structural and non-structural measures out there. Structural measures out of the same involve adjusting engineering designs and standards to reflect disaster risks such as flood control system, protected embankment, seawall rehabilitation, and retrofitting of buildings. Non-structural measures refer to risk-sensitive planning enabling institutional frameworks, hazard mapping, and ecosystem-based management and disaster risk financing, right? In recent weather and climate related disasters, up to 66%, which is a huge quantum here. So, in the recent weather and climate related disasters, up to 66% of the public sector losses were related to infrastructural damage here, right? Hence, the resilient infrastructure is critical for people's well being, quality of life, and various economic prospects out there, right? So, all these things over here are very, very important, right? So, that is about it. Next, we come to talking about the living entity. Now, what do we understand by a living entity? So, please note that Punjab and Haryana quote, right? So, Punjab and Haryana quote, yes, Ravi, because they are the most prone to such disasters, right? तो आपने सुना होगा बहुत पहले हुआ था कि जो आपकी रिवर गंगा और यमुना और उनके ट्रिब्यूटरीज थे दे वर गिवन the living entity status, right? So they were given the living entity status. Now back in March, the Sukhna Lake in Chandigarh, right, the very famous lake, that is the Sukhna Lake in Chandigarh, was also given as like a similar stature, right? So अब उसको क्या किया गया है? Punjab and Haryana High Court जो है, right, that has recently declared the Sukhna Lake in Chandigarh as a living entity, right? So that has basically, named it or described it as a living entity now, right? So that is another very important aspect to it. So that is what has basically, announced it or designated it as a living entity here, right? So that is very, very important. Now, going on further, another thing that you need to be very careful of here is that in living entities se hota kya hai? So once you are going to declare a particular lake or a water body or anything like that as a living entity, what is going to happen over there? All right. So what is going to, yes, we studied this in class today. So when we are talking about a living entity there, so that means you are conferring certain legal rights, duties and liabilities, right? So you are going to give in that kind of information there, right? So that is what is going to come in over here, right? So that is exactly what happens, right? So that is important. Now, please note that the court observed that the Sukhna Lake is required to be declared as a legal entity for its survival, preservation, and conservation, right? So they feel that the lake is not being taken care of properly, and you need to take care of all such issues also, right? So that is about it. So that is there. Then it also declared, right? It has also declared, or it is also said that, it is also said that it is declared, or it has also declared all citizens of Chandigarh as loco parentis in the place of a parent to save the lake from extinction, right? Also note that the Chandigarh administration has been directed to declare it a wetland within a period of 3 months. All right. right? Also, states of Punjab and Haryana have basically failed to take precautionary measures, right, to save the catchment area of Sukna Lake, and it is their duty to restore the catchment area. Moreover, they are bound to pay exemplary penal damages under the doctrine of polluter pays principle, right? Is that clear? Have you guys understood this much? Is it clear? Is this clear to everybody? All right. Now polluter pays principle में थोड़ा सा आपको explain कर दूं अगर, so polluter pays principle का मतलब है the one who is going to be polluting or will be responsible for causing the damage or pollution of the environment will be held liable for the same, and will have to be paying a sum or damage for that, right? So that is about it. That is very, very important here, right? So that is there. Now, going on further, talking about the Sukna Lake, what is going to happen? The man-made Sukna Lake was built in Chandigarh in 1958 by Le Corbusier, who is also, yes, they will have to pay penalties also, who was the architect of Chandigarh. Very good, Ravi. It is located in the foothills of the Shivalik Hills, and it was designed to collect runoff water from the hills here, right? It also has a nearby Sukna Wildlife Sanctuary that is home to like sambar, pangolin, wild boars, etc. Right? So that is about it. Right? So this is the little history about Sukna Lake here. Now coming on to the next aspect, that is the BEE star rating program. Now when we speak about the BEE star rating program, what is there? So आपने देखा होगा star labeling या ऐसा कुछ होता है like eco labeling and star labels, right? So that is about it, right? So when we talk about the same, what exactly happens? So आपने देखा होगा कि आपके इतने इतने स्टार वाले ACs हैं, इतने स्टार वाले रेफ्रिजरेटर्स and all those things are there, right? So what do we understand by that here? उसका मतलब क्या है? So when we are talking about all such things, it basically talks about, or it basically deals with issues or aspects related to what, related to how efficient a particular product is that you are using, right? So that is what it means here, right? So it provides informed choice to consumers through display, right? So through display of energy performance labels on high energy use equipment and appliances, and lays down minimum energy performance standards, right? A star rating ranging from about 1 to 5 in the ascending order of energy efficiency is provided to products registered with the Bureau, right? An endorsement label is also provided for some products, right? It seeks to improve energy efficiency and also lower the cost of appliances or equipment for the consumers, right? So that is there. Most importantly, हम इसमें efficiency को consider करते हैं कि वो कितनी energy लेगा, वो कितना efficiently काम करेगा, and it is for both reasons, right? आप environmental sustainability की तो बात करोगे, emissions कम होंगे, कम energy use होगी, also it is economically viable for you because आपकी जितनी कम एनर्जी और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूज होगी उतना कम बिल भी तो आएगा. So that is how it works here, right? So a star rating ranging from 1 to 5 in the ascending order of energy efficiency is provided. You must have seen just say like this AC has a star rating, your TVs have star ratings, right? So everything or various different products and commodities, all of them have star ratings given to them, right? Now going on further, talking about the next aspect here, काम क्या है? It seeks to improve energy efficiency and also lower energy cost of appliances or equipment for the consumers, right? Labels also provide a common energy efficiency benchmark that can work in association with other policy measures such as procurement programs, financial incentives, etc. Right? So that is about it. All right. Now going on further, talking about the next aspect here, talking about how this works. So this is something that you must have noted on various appliances, right? So different appliances पे ऐसे labels या ऐसे indicators बने होते हैं. So through the launch of these two new appliances under voluntary regime, 26 appliances will now be covered under the program. So कौन सी appliances हैं? एक बार previous year MCQ भी आ गया था कि star rating किस किस पे होती है. So be very careful to remember this. So which are the appliances which are the mandatory appliances which need to like definitely and mandatorily have your star labeling, right? So basically room air conditioners, it requires frost-free refrigerators require the same. Tubular fluorescent lamps require it. Distribution transformers require it. Room air conditioners require it. Direct cool refrigerators also require it. Color TVs require it. Electric geysers do require the same. Variable capacity inverter ACs require the same. राइट एलईडी लैम्प्स ऑल्सो हैव इट राइट आपने देखा होगा एलईडी की जो बॉक्स होता है जो बॉक्स आता है फिलिप्स का इसका जो भी आप यूज करते हो उसके ऊपर भी लिखा होता है राइट. Now talking about the voluntary appliances here, so induction motor, pump sets, ceiling fans, LPG stoves, washing machines, computers like notebooks or laptops, whatever you're using, ballast that is electronic or magnetic, office equipment like your printers, copiers, scanners, MFDs, whatsoever you're using, diesel engine driven mono setup pumps, solid state inverters, DG sets, chillers, microwave ovens, solar water heaters, all these things, all these equipments do require some some type of labeling so as to construe as to how efficient, how energy efficient they are or they are not, right? So that is how we decide on how efficient a particular appliance is that we are using, right? So that is about it. So this is basically or these are all the current affairs that were very very important from the month of March, right? So these 11 issues were all over the place, were discussed very very like comprehensively and extensively during that time frame. Also lucky for you guys, unlucky for some like in that respect, the corona outbreak took place this year. So as a result of that, the quantum of current affairs coming in from March, April, May, June definitely dipped a lot, right? So locust attack and all those things were taking place, yes. But like Australian bushfire to khair pehle ho rahi thi, or Amazon fires and all those things were there, yes. But other than that, nothing very substantial had taken up, right? सो यूजुअली हर साल करंट अफेयर्स में बहुत सारी चीज़ें आती हैं बिकॉज सम स्टडी सम रिपोर्ट और द अदर इज डेफिनेटली कंडक्टेड ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम स्पैन बट अभी क्या हुआ है लाइक नथिंग मच हैज़ बीन टेकन अप लाइक नथिंग मच हैज़ बेसिकली टेकन अप ओवर हियर राइट. So that is like definitely about it. So that is why we have to just cover this much portion only, right? So that is there. So March, April, May are still smaller as compared to what January was. We took two classes to cover January, and now February and March were all done in one class each, right? So before I end the discussion here for today, guys, I'll quickly revise through all the things that we have discussed, right? So let me just take up all the topics that we have just discussed and like, briefly summarize them for you here. Coming to the first one, talking about the World Wildlife Day, what happened? The day is being celebrated on the 3rd of March every year. और किस दिन हो रहा है? जिस दिन CITES sign हुई थी, and the UNGA resolution also designated the CITES Secretariat as the facilitator for global observance of this special day for wildlife on the UN calendar, right? Going on further, talking about the black carbon levels spiking at the Himalayan glacier. So what happened? The black carbon concentrations near the Gangotri glacier rose 400 times in summer due to forest fires and stubble burning from agricultural waste and triggered extensive melting. Black carbon results from incomplete combustion of fossil fuels and biomass. Fine particles absorb light in about 1 million times more energy than carbon dioxide, right? So all these things are there, and also please note that it is said to be the second largest contributor to climate change after carbon dioxide, but unlike that, it can stay in the atmosphere for a couple of years together at a stretch, right? हमने ये भी समझा था that how is it going to enhance or lead to global warming? Why? Because it is going to retain and incorporate all that heat and will definitely lead to the melting of glaciers. And this is not just going to be a problem up till here. आगे अगर हम लोग देखेंगे तो जैसे जैसे आपकी ग्लेशियर्स जो हैं मेल्ट होते जाएंगे और इसमें वाटर का क्वांटम बढ़ता जाएगा, सो फ्लडिंग इज गोइंग टू बी द नेक्स्ट इमिनेंट इशू. ना फ्लडिंग विल डेफिनेटली लीड टू हैबिटेट लॉस which will lead to the extinction of species, right? So all these problems are definitely going to snowball. So it's not just one thing that is impacted, right? There is always a chain of events that comes into picture, and that is how the impact snowball into big problems like that out there, right? So that is what happens. Yes, this is all going to happen here because the albedo of the white snow is going to be reduced because black carbon will be incorporated, right? That was this one. Then talking about the green ecosystem, basic चीज आपको क्या याद रखनी है that it is developed by CII. Usually इसी में आपको confuse कर देंगे, टेरी लैब ने किया या फिर MOEFCC ने करवाया या वो कर रहे हैं, कुछ भी ऐसे करके देख लेना, वो गलत है. It is basically developed by the Confederation of Indian Industry, right? So please remember that. Yes, Ravi, a lot of cascading impacts do take place. Then we had discussed about the Carissa kopilii. What is Carissa kopilii? That is Karonda. And we had discussed कि ब्रह्मपुत्र और मेघालय मतलब कहाँ पर वो होता था and how it is going to be problematic because it is not going, like it will be very difficult to sustain the same, right? Because of the huge pollution and all those things, right? We'd also discussed rat hole mining here. Then we discussed about the illegal wildlife trade, which has been very rampant for be it anything, किसी delicacy, किसी particular चीज का meat or maybe scales or anything that might be required for preparing any kind of a delicacy or something like that, right? Then we discussed about the draft EI notification as to what all happened. कुछ projects में clearances चाहिए, कुछ projects में जैसे group B projects में अब आपको कोई report नहीं चाहिए and all those things. So that was there. Also, this has included bridges and elevated roads now to come under the ambit of EIA. So remember that part, right? कि जो आप bridges और आपके elevated roads हैं, they will also be covered as an aspect under the EIA, right? Coming on further, talking about eco-sensitive zones. So eco-sensitive zones में क्या था? We talked about which areas are going to be, designated as the same. So remember that the National Chambal Sanctuary is going to be designated or has been designated as an eco-sensitive zone, right? Then we talked about the UN Water Development Reports. We've discussed about it. We've also discussed about what UN Water is and what does it stand for here, right? Talking about the next one, we discussed about the Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. We also discussed about founding members कौन-कौन हैं, याद रखना. Australia, Bhutan, Fiji, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Maldives, Mexico, Mongolia, Rwanda, Sri Lanka, and United Kingdom are there. And its second major coalition was launched by India outside the United Nations after the International Solar Alliance, which already has 80 member nations as partners, and its secretariat is in New Delhi, right? So that is there. So what exactly is going to be the framework and modus operandi has been explained here. And we've also discussed about what is disaster resilient infrastructure. So any infrastructure that is going to be there or will be standing tall in the disaster situation also and will not be impacted by that is what we understand by the disaster resilient infrastructure, right? That is there. And lastly, talking about the living entity, not lastly, but second lastly. So living entity status क्या होता है? Once you are going to give a particular thing the status of a legal person or a living entity, and Sukhna Lake has been accorded with the same recently, and that has made it a person with legal rights. So that is about it, right? So इससे पहले आपकी गंगा यमुना उनकी ट्रिब्यूटरीज को लिविंग एंटिटी स्टेटस दिया गया था, अब जो है आपकी सुखना लेक को दे दिया गया है, right? And who are the loco parentis that is in place of a parent for the lake here? So it is also declared all citizens of Chandigarh as loco parentis to save the lake from extinction. I hope you guys know about the fact that it was built by Le Corbusier, who was the architect of Chandigarh, right? So that was about it. Lastly, we spoke about the BE star rating program, which was formulated by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, right? Absolutely. And under the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. And we know that what are the various products, which are the 10 mandatory appliances under it, and also the voluntary appliances that have been added under it, right? So that is about it. So these are all the like the mandatory appliances and the voluntary appliances. Important है, please याद रखना, questions usually आते हैं and you have to or you must remember all these things from here, right? So please make sure you guys remember these things over here. Now going on further, coming on to the last aspect, yes, correct, New Zealand maybe. So that was all about it for today, guys. So on that note, I will be concluding this session here for today, right? So we have discussed comprehensively all the current affairs from the month of March. Tomorrow we will again have a session at 12:15 wherein I will be discussing about important current affairs from the month of April, right? So those of you are interested, do tune in at 12:15 tomorrow, right? So with that, we'll conclude the session here for today, guys. So thank you so much for attending this session. I hope you guys have understood everything clearly. In case you still have any doubts with respect to anything in particular, you can always reach out to me and ask me whatever doubts or questions you guys have, right? So you can reach out to me on any of the platforms. Make sure you guys follow me on Unacademy for reaching out to me directly and getting access to or information about all my upcoming like courses out there, right? So on that note, guys, I hope you guys have a great day. Study well, revise well, and take care. And I hope you guys have a great day ahead. All right, take care and enjoy yourselves. All right, great day ahead. Good day. Bye bye.